Hi everyone! Since my video about my laptop resonated with so many of you, I decided to show you something else. This is the ASUS A6R. By today's standards, it's an antique laptop released way back in the 2000s, more precisely in 2004. That was back when Windows XP was the standard and Windows 7 was still years away. It's a relic from my past, a bit of nostalgia that's been sitting on the shelf. Let's take a closer look. Here we go. So, let me start by saying that this is my grandfather's laptop. He bought it for himself in 2004. I was in school at the time, and since I had experience with my Windows 95 desktop PC back then, I often helped my grandfather figure out how to use this machine. He didn't really know his way around it very well. As we can see, it even says on the laptop itself that it's an entertainment notebook series. It was marketed as an entertainment device, though today it's just a piece of junk. The exterior has a strict office-like look, quite bulky for its time, made of good quality plastic with a thick chassis, and the massive bezels around the screen really show its age. After all, modern designs are focused on being thinner. After all these years, the hinges still hold the laptop screen in place, though the screen itself is a bit loose now. Unfortunately, it has survived to this day with visible damage. My grandfather once dropped the laptop on the floor at our cottage and tried to tape it up in the spots you see here, but thankfully it didn't affect the device's functionality. The laptop lid itself had these latches. Even now it clicks shut. Listen to the sound. It's just music to the ears, although opening it after closing it is now quite a challenge. In terms of design, it gave a sense of reliability for its time. All laptops often seem more solid because they're actually thicker and sturdier. As for ports and connection interfaces, that's a whole other story. Compared to today's models, this was actually a very good option. Here's what we have. A VGA port and multi-pin port for printers of that era and similar devices. 4 USB Type-A 2.0 ports, RJ45 Ethernet and RJ11. Yeah, that very same dial-up internet from the past. Audio, 1 headphone out jack, 1 microphone in jack, 1 line in jack. Absolutely awesome. An infrared port, I even used it back in the day to transfer photos from my Nokia 3230. Those were the days. Card bus was used for things like network cards, modems, USB adapters, sound cards, and even TV tuners. They don't make this anymore. There is also a Kensington lock and a working optical drive. Just listen to that sound. That's basically what the 2000s sounded like. Let's move on. This laptop has a 15-inch display, classic for its time, with a resolution of 1024 by 768 XGA. As you can see, the backlight isn't working well in some places, so part of the screen has a noticeable lighting defect. By mid-2000s standards, this was considered perfectly normal and even a comfortable option for work and multimedia. The picture was clear enough for office tasks, but by today's standards, the screen is of course very outdated. Low pixel density, narrow viewing angles, typical TN panel, poor color reproduction and contrast. Ultimately, this is a typical display of its era. It's not about image quality, but about basic comfort and versatility. In terms of specs, this laptop has a prehistoric 1.6 GHz Pentium M730 processor. Nowadays, any smartphone outperforms it. And it's not just a solid-on processor, you can easily remove it and replace it if you want. Generally speaking, from this perspective, older laptops could even be upgraded. You could swap out processors, RAM, and sometimes graphic cards, though this wasn't possible on all models. The stock RAM was 512 MB of DDR2, but I upgraded it to a total 2 GB. That's the maximum for this laptop. The 80 GB hard drive is laughable by today's standards, but it wasn't bad back then. Next, I'd like to talk about the operating system and gaming. To start with, finding a decent version of Windows XP with a 32-bit architecture turned a challenge for me, as did finding the drivers. The ones I found for Bluetooth and the infrared port didn't work, but thankfully the rest did. For anyone interested, I'll leave a link to the Windows version in the description. The hard drive itself was already worn out, so everything runs pretty slowly here, and if we are talking about gaming back then, this wasn't exactly a top-of-the-line gaming laptop. laptop, but you could still play games on it. The next complex task for me was finding games for this laptop. It took me several days to find ones that actually worked. The ones I managed to get up and running were GTA Vice City, Need for Speed Underground 2, Diablo 2, Quake and Medal of Honor. I also found one I used to play on Windows 95 before the year 2000, such as Doom 2nd. I honestly tried to record these games for you in good quality. I even found a version of raps from back then, but it turned out to be difficult for this old machine to record video while running the games at the same time. And for some reason the FPS isn't displayed, unfortunately. Anyway, GTA ran fine, but during screen recording the FPS dropped to a record low of 30 frames, whereas without recording it was around 60. And for some reason it doesn't show up in the recording. Well, just take my word for it. Underground 2 was a pretty resource-hungry game back then, so I had to play it with the graphics settings almost at minimum, but still those familiar tracks, the atmosphere of those years, bring back my 2004. Diablo 2 ran without any major issues, although the game itself used to crash for no reason. Back in the day I had some peculiar problems with it. You know, I remember how much time I spent on games back then. It was a truly colorful phase of my life. I'd usually go to my grandpa's after school and spend a lot of time playing games. My friends and I would often swap games disc and burn RW discs. All in all, it was a whole era that has passed. Now of course my grandpa has a new laptop and it's more than enough for him. To be honest, I didn't even think I'd be able to get this version up and running. What's more, you can't really spend much time online either. I had to search for and download a browser to access the web, but some pages might not load. Though I think if you try hard enough, you could find a working solution, but I didn't spend much with it because I had enough other things to worry about, like finding drivers, apps and games. I'll say a little about this. The sound here is nothing to write home about. It's definitely better to listen through headphones. You can only watch content in full HD. It can't handle anything higher because the picture just lags terribly. The keyboard here is a standard, non-full-size layout with no number pad and it's still working fine. One more I forgot to mention earlier, that they used to include a panel with shortcut keys for quick access to various things like email, the browser and power saving modes. As far as I remember, you couldn't remap them. And at the bottom, of course, there are the battery, power and wireless indicators, along with the mail notifications so you don't miss any alerts. By the way, the battery died a long time ago, so the laptop can only run on AC power. And so after all this testing, it becomes clear that the ASUS A6R is no longer about performance or modern tasks. It's a machine from a different era, when a laptop was more a versatile tool for work, movies and early games than a full-fledged gaming platform. Today, of course, it's severely outdated, weak hardware, an old screen, limited capabilities and almost complete incompatibility with modern software. But despite this, it's still alive and even capable of performing basic tasks and running games from that era. For me, this isn't just an old laptop, it's a piece of time connected to my childhood, my first games and that very feeling when technology seemed almost magical. And maybe its main value today isn't in the specs but in its history. That's all from me, thanks to everyone for watching, I hope you found it interesting. Subscribe, like and leave comments, it helps with promotion. And of course, until next time.